Hello, and welcome to another episode of
the Super Data Brothers Super Show.
That's right. I am Ryan.
I am Eric.
And we are two real-life brothers who work in the data and analytics industry. And we got a good one for you today, folks.
Boy, Ryan, you know I'm so excited for today's show. For one reason is because I just spilled a glass of water that broke all over my working area about 30 seconds before we went live. So I was desperately trying to clean it up beforehand. I did an okay job. I will try not to step in any glass as we go through this. But the other reason I'm excited for today's show is because Gartner, baby.
Yeah,
it was
right.
the Gartner conference.
Right. So I got the opportunity to attend and actually present at the Gartner Data and Analytics Conference in London last week. And so like we do every year, I will encapsulate my findings, the interesting things from the conference today for you so that you can see what it is that Gartner has to say about the data industry. And so let's get into it now, folks. This is a live show, and that means it is more fun for us and it is more fun for you if you get your reactions, questions, and comments into the chat, whether you're watching on LinkedIn or you're watching on YouTube.
On the YouTube.
Either way, we will see it and we will respond. Our regulars know, of course, if you tell us where you're watching from, we will give you a shout out over the course of the show. So get those questions, comments, and your location into the chat for your live interaction with the Super Data Brothers. And speaking of interacting with the Super Data Brothers, you know, we are actual physical corporeal beings that you can meet in person. We are not just internet personalities. And so where can you meet one or both of the Super Data Brothers coming up in 2024 and early 2025? Well, I will be at Snowflake Summit, June 3rd through 6th in San Francisco. And I will also be at Databricks Data and AI Summit, June 10th through 13th in San Francisco. So if you're attending either of those conferences, swing by and say hello. At Snowflake Summit, Good Data is going to have a booth, so you can meet me at the booth. At Databricks, I'm a free agent, so hit me up on LinkedIn if you want to connect and say hello. We may be going to Big Data London. We may be going to DBT Coalesce, but for sure, Data Day Texas in January 2025. Eric and I will both be there. And so you are not going to want to miss it. We've got Carl tuning in from Miami, Florida. Carl, welcome back to the show. And Andy joining us from Dublin, Ireland. Great to have you here today, Andy. Okay, so are you still messing with this shattered glass all over your desk over there?
I've got it mostly worked out. I was just picking up some shards from the carpet.
Yeah. All right. So Gartner Data and Analytics Summit. So what is this summit? First of all, we all know the Gartner Magic Quadrant. It's the got that image that you use to buy software for BI and analytics. There's also, Gartner does conferences, of course. The Data and Analytics Summit is done every year in Miami and in London. This year, I attended the London event. It has over 4,000 attendees, and these are leadership attendees. So if you were to compare this to other conferences that you could go to, say you're really into DBT and you say, do I want to go to Coalesce? Well, Coalesce is for practitioners. Almost everybody at Coalesce is an actual hands to keyboard data engineer who works with DBT, and maybe they're managers. Gartner is totally different. The average attendee is kind of a director level, VP level, maybe C title. definitely you see CIOs, CDAOs, CEOs at the Gartner Data and Analytics Summit. So it's a very senior audience.
Yeah. I looked up how much it costs, and it was like $5,000 was the discounted educational price.
Yeah, they cost a very senior audience amount of money to attend.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll request to have work pay for it next year. It's like, well, we're not approving that.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually a really good conference. It's very interesting. And we'll talk about the content that was presented there. But one thing to understand about these Gartner conferences is they're not like, say, the Snowflake conference where there's attendees from, there may be call for papers and there'll be lots of deep technical presentations from Snowflake users. Like, this is executive level. It's targeted at the executive level. It's high level trends, advice, that sort of thing. There are lots of vendors, don't get me wrong. The presentations are entirely vendor, client, or Gartner presentations. So there's no, like, that I could see anyways, call for papers where if you want to speak at Gartner, you could just come up with an interesting topic and submit it to them, and maybe they would select you, which is the case at many conferences. It's mostly Gartner presentations, really. Gartner presenting their research back to you. Gartner has a huge research org. Again, everybody knows them for the Magic Quadrant in all the different areas. That's a great report. But Gartner produces papers constantly about different technical and business topics. And so the presentations are mostly about that. And also, if you're interested, like, should I go to a Gartner conference or not? The vibe at a Gartner conference is suits. Like you can see in this picture here. I had a full suit and tie. It was probably pretty rare to see someone in a tie, but I'm a weirdo who likes to dress up. Whereas, but like, at a minimum, collared shirt, lots of jackets, lots of suits. It is not like,
it's not a hoodie con.
No, or like, the DBT conference, people just wear whatever. This is not that. These are executives. You might be talking to the CEO of a large company, and so people dress up for this, right? Here we've got, who is this? Ashwin, watching us from central London, UK, sunny central London. It was actually, we had great weather for the first part of the week last week when I was in London. That first day I was there, it was warm. I got a beer at an outdoor pub, great Indian food. I really do enjoy visiting London. It's one of the perks of going to these conferences, is getting to go to London.
Yeah, we also got Daniel from Germany.
From Germany, Daniel, welcome.
Wie geht es Ihnen?
So what did I see at the conference? Well, the first thing I saw was myself presenting. So that was pretty cool. I've never presented at a Gartner conference before. So most of you know, if you're tuning in, maybe some of you don't, I'm the VP of product strategy at Good Data, which is a analytics platform vendor. And we presented with our customer Muse all about monetizing embedded BI. So Muse has a kind of a hospitality platform for hotels. Excuse me. They're a really fast growing startup, and we kind of provide the analytics engine that drives a lot of their decision-making features, AI features, and BI features in their software applications. And so
they didn't invent mewing.
No, they did not. They did not invent mewing. No.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. So here's the obligatory shot of me at the Gartner podium. Wow. Yeah, I know. So fancy. So what did we talk about? Well, we talked about basically providing analytics that someone would pay for is hard, and it's different than doing internal BI. And so what do you need for that? You need a degree of scale, automation, and efficiency that is typically not seen in internal BI teams. Internal BI teams are structured so that they're more like artisanal in a way. Like, you hire BI analysts and data analysts who are like the crafts person who builds the dashboards lovingly for your use cases. And monetizing external BI is not like that. It's like building a product at scale. You need a lot of efficiency and scale to be able to provide insights without huge amounts of human intervention necessary to produce every little object, right? And that's basically what we talked about. So how do you do it? How do you embrace this scale? It's a lot of the stuff we talk about on this show. Having like really good metrics that are reusable for many use cases. Semantic layers are important. Analytics as code and automation. All that sort of stuff goes into efficiently monetizing BI for like customers. And so that's what I presented about at Gartner. But you don't just want to hear what I presented about, right? You guys want to hear, well, what does Gartner have to say? What was the vibe of the conference? So that's what we're going to get into from here on out. But I figured we'd start with like, what did I actually do at the conference? And this was it. So, okay, what else beyond the Ryan show? The conference was for sure about AI. I don't think that's going to surprise anybody.
Yeah. Wasn't the one last year about AI too?
It was, but last year's was more like the shock of AI, right?
Yeah.
Because it was so new that it was much more like AI is amazing. It's going to change everything, and like none of us know how or why. And it's still like that a little bit, a lot, honestly. But the focus was much more on the data infrastructure for AI. Like, what do you need if you're going to do successful AI projects? What does Gartner's research indicate you need to pull it off? And there's actually a lot to it. So data products was a big part of the conversation, a huge part of the conversation that I didn't necessarily expect coming out of Gartner. I went to a great presentation about data products that I'll highlight in a second here. Data mesh, they talked about a lot. And it was very interesting to see Gartner embrace this term because Gartner has historically been down on data mesh. And they've kind of come up with other terms that basically mean data mesh, but don't use the words. However, at the show, they were just openly embracing the term data mesh and saying data mesh and these decentralized domain-oriented data architectures are going to be an important piece of delivering AI. Overall AI infrastructure, like the actual tools, right? What do you need to put in place for data to do AI? Risk mitigation. The other presentation I really want to highlight today was about AI risk mitigation. This was fascinating and scary.
Yeah.
And the risk mitigation was not.
Yeah. Was it existential risk mitigation or?
It was not that.
Okay.
Right? But it was, and it was not, oh, someone's going to use the grandma jailbreak in order to learn someone else's salary. What this was about was like, how do you actually plan an AI project so that it doesn't blow up in your face? From a success, like delivering success while not destroying the commercial aspects of the project, not blowing your budget, right? Knowledge graph and data catalog. This kind of goes along with data products and data mesh. They were huge. There were so many data catalog and knowledge graph vendors who were sponsoring this year's show. Like, I don't know, a dozen out of maybe 35 total sponsors. And BI, which of course is what we focus on predominantly as our areas of expertise, very small piece of the overall footprint. So the BI only vendors who were there, I mean, I hesitate to say BI only, but primarily BI analytics platform vendors. It's like us and Domo and a couple others. And then the big guys were all there, the Amazons, the Googles. But Amazon's presence at this conference was not about QuickSight at all.
No.
Right? It was about their overall cloud portfolio, and maybe QuickSight. Maybe even I didn't go to Amazon's presentation, but I wouldn't be surprised if they never even said the word
QuickSight.
Like maybe they showed some stuff and it had QuickSight in it. It had some cool dashboards, but it was not about BI. Like BI was just not a big piece of this conference. It was about AI infrastructure.
Yeah, that's interesting because in my review of QuickSight, like they had some nice points. Like QuickSight had some nice features, but like they're all enterprise features, and that's not the stuff people want to talk about at conferences. Exactly. Yeah. So I'm not surprised that they didn't, that they weren't advertising QuickSight when AI is the word on everyone's lips.
No, I mean it was very interesting. Just the BI piece of the conversation was just such a tiny slice, and I think at this conference 10 years ago, BI would have been the main show.
Yeah. What, 10 years ago? Was that during Tableau's rise? What, 2014?
2024 would have been like, Tableau. This was before Tableau became the leader in the Magic Quadrant. Whoop, we lost Eric. Before Tableau became the leader in the Magic Quadrant, but when they were like on the rise would have been 2024, or 2014 rather. And so, yeah, that was, it was all about about AI architecture, AI infrastructure, AI risk mitigation, lots of that kind of stuff. And so while we're waiting on Eric to return, I've seen a lot of people have joined since we did our intro. This is a live show. If this is your first time here, this is not pre-recorded, and I can see the chat. So whether you're on LinkedIn or Google, if there's a reaction, a question, something you want to know, get it into the chat, and I will absolutely answer your question or share your reaction with the world. There's a reason we do this show live, and that's why, because we really, it's the interaction with the audience is kind of where the value, like in a data mesh, where the value comes from the interaction of the data products and not necessarily the data products themselves. On the Super Data Brothers show, the value comes from our interaction with you. So while we wait for Eric to come back, I will continue on. So overall, what did I learn? I appreciate that if you work for Gartner, you must be under enormous pressure every year, basically, to come up with some new thing, some big new term. What is the thing that you're pitching this year at the conference that everybody should know? So last year, I felt coming out of the conference, it was this idea of the data franchise. That's Gartner's version of the data mesh. This year at the conference, it was this term collective intelligence. The keynote was all about collective intelligence. And what does that mean? It's quite a nebulous term, and they did a good job describing it. But I will say I still came away from it thinking like, this was so high level that I'm having a hard time picturing its actual implementation in the real world. So what is collective intelligence? This is kind of what they said it was. It was the merger of data analytics with the right purpose and the appropriate data literacy and the autonomy for your end users or departments. And like, if you get all these things right, then you can deliver collective intelligence. And I think you can kind of see what I mean when I say like, this is quite high level. It's quite conceptual. What does this actually look like in the real world? I'll be honest with you, it's not 100% clear to me, but I do understand, I think, what they're shooting for. And to me, the idea is, with the trends we have in the data industry, we have domain-oriented architectures and data mesh. We have data products. We have this new focus on semantics, metadata, and knowledge catalogs. And then we have AI, which will give people quite an enhanced and autonomous experience for interacting with data in a way that I do believe they've never had before in drag and drop tooling and that sort of thing. And so, all of those things combined, I think, do give us the ability to create this rather new data infrastructure and experience that is much more distributed, much more reactive, much more tied to kind of individual departments or domains, but still managed from a central data and analytics team as far as ensuring quality, provisioning platform, and providing the bedrock analytics. And I think if I had to sum up what they're shooting for, it's that. A very interesting thing. So if you follow me on LinkedIn, you may have seen last week or the week before I posted, one of my best friends is a high school English teacher, and it's very curious. He came to me and he said, "Hey, Ryan, have they identified a real use case for AI yet? Because all the use cases are BS. Like, they're all made up." And I was like, "What are you talking about, dude?" But we live in very different information ecosystems. He's not plugged into any of the stuff that, if you're watching this show, you're probably plugged into. And his opinion of AI is that it's been all hype. There's no use for it, and it's basically just BS. And of course, my impression of AI is totally different. And likewise, this is a survey of CEOs that Gartner did. Their impression of AI is also more like mine and less like my English teacher friend. So 75% of CEOs say their company has already tried it. 64% say that Gen AI is not overhyped, and 62% say that they've had AI discussions at the board level. These are quite high numbers for a 2-year-old technology. It's older than 2 years, but it really exploded in the public consciousness 2 years ago. So that was a big message from the conference, is that this is not just hype. Alberto asks, does it sound like self-service analytics-ish kind of? Yes. I think collective intelligence has a huge AI-driven self-service component as the front end of collective intelligence. And I think the back end are these other systems. It's the data mesh, the distributed data, domain-oriented design, data products, ontologies, all that sort of stuff is really what hey, welcome back, Eric. Oh, we can't hear you. You're mute. I don't know if you're muted or did some water like fall into one of the air vents on your gaming PC? And yeah, we got no audio, dude. Yeah, we got technical issues today on the Super Data Brothers show. Well, I'm going to keep rolling, and when Eric is able to join us with sound, that will be great. But yes, Alberto, that is kind of what it's like. It's like a radical new vision for self-service is almost how I would describe it, driven by AI. Okay. This was also, I think, quite interesting. Is they tried to do this analysis, or they did an analysis of how are data and analytics leaders actually spending their time, and they identified these 4 things that people are actually spending their time on: changing culture, creating strategy, management of the data and analytics function, and then governance. And in their opinion, what actually matters, what moves the needle the most if you're a data leader, is the management, the actual management of the data and analytics function, and ensuring governance. That strategy and culture, and I'm not saying I agree with this, but strategy and culture are still important, but that maybe they're overvalued, and that management and governance is undervalued. And I guess I do agree with that. And as an executive at a company, right? Execution is so important. It's easy to get wrapped up in strategy. I'm sure if you're a data leader watching, or maybe you work for a data leader who is too wrapped up in strategy and not paying enough attention to management and governance. So they really felt as leaders, we should focus more on that. I wouldn't say focus on it more than these other things, but that we're not focusing enough. Let me put it that way. And that as far as what they see successful data and analytics leaders do, again, Gartner's opinion, what they do is they manage the data and analytics function, they deliver successful projects, and they drive governance maturity. That those are kind of the 3 key things you need to do. Now, I know there's a lot of talk about data culture, data literacy, just in general. You got sayings like culture eats strategy for breakfast. And I don't think Gartner's disagreeing with that here, but I think they are saying specifically if you're a data and analytics leader, like these are the things that will take you to the promised land, more so than fretting over, your data culture, in their opinion. Oh man, I'm missing a slide here that I really liked. Where did it go? Okay, well they had another slide that I wanted to share with you that I thought was quite interesting, and that is that success was 3% strategy and 97% execution. And I found myself largely in agreement with that. That strategy is not it is very important. Having the right strategy is very important, but it's not enough. How you execute, if you execute a good strategy at a supremely high level, you will probably do better than someone who's executing an incredible strategy just okay. And that was a big takeaway from the keynote too, that I personally found, like, reflecting on it as a data leader, I thought, yeah, this is probably some advice I should take. All right, Eric, can we hear you?
Yes.
Hey, welcome
I'm
back.
back. Yeah, some water got into my keyboard and my keyboard started going crazy.
Okay.
So I found an old keyboard and I plugged that in. So
see, this is why I'm always telling Jane, no, I need to have those 17 keyboards in the box in the basement.
It's true.
Yeah,
it's true. I mean, this is the first time I've ever needed a second keyboard, but golly,
is it a USB or did you manage to find a PS2 keyboard?
No, a USB. Yeah.
Okay.
my computer does not have a PS2 input.
So I was just to catch you up, I was just talking about the keynote and the main takeaways from the keynote. Sure. And one of the most interesting ones to me was that success is 3% strategy and 97% execution. And that was a quote from an executive at Ericsson.
Yeah,
I believe. So that was the overall message to data and analytics leaders that Gartner had, was Like to build collective intelligence, we need to focus on management, delivering projects, and driving governance maturity. We can't have collective intelligence without that. And so that's where we should be focusing this year as data and analytics leaders. So there are two really great presentations I saw that I want to highlight for you. The first one, and it was like the first presentation immediately after the keynote. It was excellent, I thought. And it was data products with Sarah Turkali. I apologize, Sarah. I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce your name, but this was excellent. I thought an excellent bit of research. And I will tell you why. You'll see why in a second. But it's because everybody talks about data products.
Mm-hmm.
Ask them, what is a data product? Eric, what's a data product?
It's like your data, but a product. It's like
exactly.
it's like your data's a mini little franchise, kind of. You're like, oh, here's my McData.
Right.
Want to open your own McData?
So here's what I loved about this presentation is Sarah defined what a data product was specifically and gave you a guide to whether or not you should build one. And whether you agree with what she said or not. And I suspect if we had many of the people, if we had Shantona back on, or we had Juan Cicada on, and we said, do you agree with this definition of a data product? Shantona would probably say no. I'm putting words in her mouth. Maybe she would say yes. I don't know. I think it's debatable is my point. But they actually stuck their neck out and did it, right? They defined it. And that I really appreciated about this presentation. So this presentation was about what is a data product and should I even build them? How do I do it? And how do I keep it going once I've done it? And that's a very important question for data products, because one part of product thinking is that you don't deliver and ditch, which is kind of the standard data team operating model, in my opinion, is you deliver content and then you ghost and you go deliver something else to someone else. And you don't maintain it for going forward. That's not what products are like. Apple didn't give us iPhone 1 and then go become a company that builds hydroelectric dams, right? We're on iPhone 15. They kept the product alive. They kept iterating. And that's very different. It's a very different operating model. So this is how they defined data products, right? They're consumption ready, they're kept up to date, and they're governed. And that a data product is a curated, self-contained combination of data, metadata, semantics, and templates. So that's a concrete thing. Like you can say to yourself, have I built those 4 things? If yes, I've built a data product. If no, I have not. And that's more than most people talking about data products are willing or able to do, I think, is specifically define what is the product. Now, do I agree with this? Not 100%, but like I said, they did it. And I thought that was very valuable for an audience who's hearing about these for the first time. And especially like an executive audience doesn't necessarily want to have a 25-minute theoretical conversation about product thinking. They need to know what this thing is. And so that's what they delivered here. And then they say, data product management is the discipline of managing data products. Great. Now, I think on this show, what we talk about a lot is most people's definition of data products ultimately boil down to there's a table somewhere. And we're managing that table with product thinking. That's the most basic definition.
That we have this table, or like basically we have a nice reporting view for you.
Yeah, that's what it often becomes, right?
Yeah.
And that's not it necessarily. And so that was a good part of this presentation. And then they came up with this test. Like, this is a hot term. It's very cool in the industry. Now that you know what it is, should you even build one? And this was kind of, again, the value of Gartner. I talk to a lot of people who like Gartner, and I talk to a lot of people who don't like Gartner. And I rather do like Gartner, and it's because of stuff like this, because they produce research like this. It's not for the Magic Quadrant report. Those reports are what they are. But research like this, I think, is actionable for people and for executives. And that's who Gartner's for. the practitioners who complain about Gartner, that's not Gartner's audience. Gartner is for the person 4 levels above the data engineer who needs to understand quickly what data products are and whether they should build them. Well, here's a great example. So, do you have a defined consumer with a continuous decision or question that needs to be answered, right? Yes, no. If you answer no, don't build a data product. Then do you actually know what value measures your consumer group prioritizes? Again, yes, no. If no, don't build a data product. Are you creating a solution that will be done continuously and needs ongoing iteration and support? If yes, if you answer all 3 of those questions, yes, you should consider a data product and the data product management approach. If you answer any of those questions no, just keep doing what you're doing. And again, you can agree with this flow chart or not, but the fact that they produced it, I think, is very valuable for people out there. And really highlights the difference between data products and product thinking versus the more traditional IT methods of delivery is this idea of continuous support, continuous evolution and iteration after you've delivered to production. So commonly, IT teams especially deliver to production, and then because they're crushing that ticket backlog.
Yeah. Hey, the project's closed. Do not need to think about this anymore unless someone submits another ticket.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the traditional method of IT delivery. I don't know. At Michigan State, have you guys, are you at all starting to think in this direction even a little bit? What is the
we have
data products?
We have reporting views. So
that's a data product.
It's a data product.
Right.
I mean, kind of. As far as the way I've been conceptualizing it is less as a data product and more of franchise model of analytics, which are related. Because it's just when things are so siloed, sometimes it's easier just to hey, here's the menu, right? And then obviously we support the individual components, but then they pick what they want from the menu.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good way to approach it, especially in an organization like a university, right?
Especially because in the other slide it said a data product is more than just the view. It's also right combination of data, metadata, semantics, and templates, right? Mm-hmm. Which that's kind of like what Cognos was built to do, essentially.
I know.
So it's old is new, but that's kind of what Cognos is what to do. We've been using Cognos since 2010. So we've had semantic layers since then. And when we onboard someone, we have templates for them and that sort of stuff. So we kind of are. I don't think no one's, maybe besides me, is using any language around calling things data products or franchise model of analytics. But there is some of that going on just because that's naturally what we've built because of the needs of such a large organization.
Right. And at university, when I worked at Northwestern, the different schools and departments within the university were almost their own
companies.
Exactly.
Yeah. With totally there's the guiding principles, like student success and stuff, everything, in theory is towards building student success, but each individual department has their totally own goals.
Yeah.
Right. Procurement and logistics, that's totally their own goals. University outreach, which gets funding, has a very direct goal: call people and get funding.
Right.
And that
those donations.
Yeah, so it's they make money, and so they have more money flowing around. And us at Central IT, ours is just keep stuff running and work with these other departments to make them happy. Essentially,
you're almost like a glue.
Yeah,
that helps. Is doing what you can to bind everything together.
Mm-hmm.
So getting back to data products, one of the interesting things that Sarah highlighted was that data product stakeholders are often outside the firm. And that was because I think you really are only thinking about oftentimes the stakeholder is the person within your company who is going to consume the data or use the report. But oftentimes, if you really do the research and you follow the chain of, who's their stakeholder and who's their stakeholder, inevitably you get outside of the company. Could be regulators, could be customers, could be vendor partners, could be, I mean, eventually you will, obviously, if you go far enough, you will always eventually leave the company. If nothing else, you'll reach shareholders. But that you really need to like understand internal and external stakeholders and do that mapping. And don't forget to look outside the company. Don't just assume, oh, we're doing this for the marketing department, right? Because the marketing department is maybe has some vendors they work with that actually the data product is going to provide data to them too somehow, and so they're also a stakeholder. That doesn't necessarily mean you need to invite vendors into your internal design sessions, but it does mean you need to understand their needs as well. This thing I just really came away from this presentation, like data products are more like products than data. It's like the way you develop them, you need to be spending more time. This is crazy. So brace yourself. Ready? More time prototyping than doing actual production engineering.
What?
Yes, because you're going to be developing MVPs quickly. You're going to be finding product market fit for your data products. And when you determine you don't have, like, you need to do that fast. So you need to be spending more effort as a data team in the prototyping, the iterative prototyping. We have an idea, let's try it out, and don't be afraid to throw it away if it doesn't work. More time doing that than you do actually doing production engineering. For data products, this doesn't mean for everything.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're doing data products, this is the mindset you need to embrace, according to Gartner. Now, I'm curious to you, Eric, and people in the chat, like, how hard would it be for your team to embrace this mindset? Like, could you sell this up the chain? Like, actually, we're going to spend 60% of our time working on stuff we throw away.
Probably not. I mean, right now, like we exist almost in like a service capacity. Like even our projects are like exist in a service capacity in a way, because like these other departments come to us with like a specific project. We're very much project based, right?
Yeah.
We're trying to I'm trying to move us towards create some data products or franchise, model of analytics, just because like that, it seems like that will lessen the amount of projects needed, or like give any project a starting point, or give the other departments like a base to launch off of, even understanding what the data is, right? But like, could I sell this up the chain? Like, I don't know. I'm not in a sell up the chain mode right now.
You're currently chief doer.
Yeah, I'm chief doer.
Right.
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 I'm chief figure out how to do it. Right. Obviously, I'm trying to move us in this direction, but
it's an interesting study. I mean, people who tune into our show regularly, probably, if you were to look at these Ask Eric About MSU clips over the last 6 months, they would see the evolution of how someone who's in a head of delivery role is trying to move the strategic direction of the organization.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Another takeaway, and we've got about 20 minutes left in the show, and I have a whole nother presentation to get to. So I'll try to speed things up here. Real products have metrics. Do you have metrics for your data? Like when you deliver an actual product, when you build this, right? You have all sorts of metrics that you're tracking related to all sorts of, how do we build it? Can we build them effectively? Can we market them effectively? Can we sell them effectively? Right? They have, God knows how many metrics Apple has tracking. Do you have metrics for your own success? And it's not just the internal stuff. What was our budget? Did we deliver the project on time? Right? It's also after it goes live. Uptime. Who's using it? What are they using it for? Is growth growing? Is growth shrinking?
Is shrink growing?
Yeah.
Is shrinking?
Yeah, you need all that stuff for You need all that stuff for a data product that if you're operating in a rather traditional IT mode, you probably don't have a lot of this stuff today. You might have how do you build stuff? How many tickets do we take? What's the average turn time on a ticket? Big, different categories of tickets. Who on the team delivers tickets quickly? Who does it slowly? You might have all that. But these post go live statistics, I find very few data teams keep. So my takeaways from this, okay, a data product is not adding underscore product to the end of every table in Oracle.
Instead of underscore V for view, it's underscore
Instead of
product.
Underscore view, now it says underscore product.
Mm-hmm.
And now we have data products. This is just a different way to manage data delivery. You're going to have different stakeholders that are further downstream. You're going to be building MVPs and chucking them out the window, and that needs to be okay. You need to be okay with it emotionally. Mm-hmm. And your leadership needs to be okay when you say, yeah, it wasn't working. We just threw it out. And they have to hear like, oh, great, that's a success. We tried an idea, it didn't work. Now we're on to a better idea. That's a success. Many organizations are just culturally not like this. You have to maintain after you go live. Big thing about products. And the final thing is not everything needs to be a product. And that was maybe my favorite thing about this presentation is actually the decision tree. Should I build a product or not? So that was the data product presentation. This next one was the mind-blowing and scary one by Nate Suda about AI risks and opportunities. So again, Gartner is under immense pressure to come up with categorizations and terms, and they got to be catchy. And I can't imagine having to invent all this stuff. But they came up with 3 different types of AI projects or categories: defend, extend, and upend. And they're cute names, but it's basically like marginal gains, like significant gains, or change the game, right? Is kind of the 3 types of AI projects they see that you could do. And then here are the costs. Again, Gartner London, so it's in pounds. Feel free to do the currency conversion in your head.
The freedom dollars. The
freedom dollars, yeah. But, do you want to spend $50K? Do you want to spend up to $1 million? Or are you willing to spend $100 million plus? Like if you want to change the game, if you want to revolutionize the industry, Gartner is saying you need to be willing to spend at least $5 million and maybe more than $100 million on an AI project.
Yeah, I mean, it costs what, billions to train ChatGPT?
Well, that's the thing. These upend, these changing the industry. I mean, this is training your own model. That's what this is. This is not hiring the best prompt engineers and relying on GPT 4.0. This is training your own model. And you can kind of see like they broke this down, all these different ways that you're going to spend money, basically, all these risks or cost centers for doing an AI project. And which ones can you outsource to a vendor versus which ones are you going to have to bear the responsibility for? And so if you're doing a little project, you can see you can outsource most costs to a vendor. You're responsible for a number of users, the per user license cost, and any integration costs with your tooling or data, right? But you're not responsible for all this other stuff, model training and AI infrastructure and tuning, and like all that's outsourced for these little projects, these 50K projects. This might be using Copilot. Like, oh, we're going to let our programmers use Copilot. We have to pay Microsoft a little extra money. But Microsoft handles everything, right? Whereas these medium projects, these extend projects, you can see you're responsible for a lot more. And that's why they can go up to 5 million in costs, right? The vendor will basically run the model, but you're doing everything else. And then these change the game, change the industry projects, you have to do everything. And that's why the costs can get so crazy. So half of projects are, first of all, 50% of projects are abandoned due to cost of AI projects, according to Gartner's research. 50%. You get into it and you're like, holy shit, this costs way more than we thought. And we got to bail. And that was very eye-opening for me. We're a BI tool. It's public knowledge that we have in our building AI-based BI functions. And as someone who's in charge of that, this was sobering. this presentation. They said these 5 things can really destroy your budget. It's your data costs, getting the number of users wrong, getting the inference right, like basically the number of iterations and the number of tokens per iteration, and the cost per token. These things can destroy your project.
Yeah. In theory, aren't these things going down rapidly in cost?
Yes. Yeah, they are. I mean, we'll see.
We'll see. No, yeah, all the vendors are in the get them in phase. They're not in the they're locked in phase.
This is what are they used to call? I've heard it said like the millennial lifestyle subsidy.
Yeah.
During the 2010s, all the apps had so much free money that everything was super cheap. Uber was super cheap, right? DoorDash cost like nothing. There was basically no service charge. That was called the millennial lifestyle subsidy. And then when that was to get people my age and your age, we're both millennials. I barely qualify. I'm almost an Xer.
I'm like right in the middle there.
You are peak millennial. And that was to get all of us hooked on the apps to where you would never flag down a taxi. You would only ever think to use Uber or Lyft. And then once interest rates went up, I would imagine, I mean, the same thing's going to happen with AI, right? At some point, Microsoft and Google and OpenAI have to make money.
Yeah, it's like, a university signs up with IBM or Microsoft and is all in their AI stack. All the chat bots that chat with students and help them schedule their classes is all in IBM's Watson X Cloud or whatever they rename it to in 2 years. And they start to squeeze. The BI vendors, the cloud BI vendors are starting to put the squeeze. They're trying to squeeze us right now, right? With contracts coming up.
Yes. Oh yeah.
All of them. Microsoft, Tableau, IBM's been around for a while. Those prices are actually pretty consistent.
Tableau especially is putting the squeeze. This is what
my God.
Tableau is putting the major squeeze.
They gave us a quote. It was ridiculous.
Yep.
Ridiculous.
Yep. So well, they got to justify that $14 billion acquisition. It's the biggest BI acquisition ever.
Insane.
So these are the 5 factors that can blow up your project. And this is a very busy slide. And I won't talk you through all of it, but the very interesting part of this is where did Gartner say, okay, there's these 3 categories: defend, extend, upend. You can think of small, medium, large in terms of what you're going to spend. And what they actually are. The small ones are lots of tiny wins. That's where the value will come from, is tiny. We're going to improve the productivity here. We're going to improve it there. We're going to improve it there. We're going to improve it there. Right. We're going to use.
We're going to make it what? We're going to make SQL easier to write. Is that kind of tiny win, or is that more?
That's the middle one, actually.
Gotcha.
This is we're going to use AI to build our slide decks.
Gotcha.
And that's going to cost us $40,000. We're going to use AI to write emails for sales. That's going to cost us $32,000, right? That's lots of tiny wins stacking up. And then the middle one is, programming, like Siri. I guess using AI for writing SQL might be the, whoa, why did that jump forward? Might be lots of tiny wins. I don't know, but more serious coding initiatives, call center automation, fraud detection. Those are the medium-sized ones that you might spend $5 million on. And then these other ones are whole new products, right?
Yeah.
We're changing the game. They actually said you should invest in the middle one, that is the sweet spot right now in terms of seeing ROI, is these $500,000 to $5 million projects, which I thought was fascinating. It's really expensive. Cost estimates are often blown by 500 to 1,000% on AI projects, and they have a very nice model for how that can happen. Here's an example of, implementation in year 1, we think is going to cost 1.1 million. And then we think it's going to go down to 500,000. And that's how much we budget this is going to cost per year. But we got some things wrong. There are more tokens per input output than we expected. And people are using it more. This is a victim of success. They're putting in more context, they're using more tokens, and they're using our tool more than we anticipated. That blows the cost estimate, right? In this example, a $900K increase in year 4 versus what you budgeted. because you got those things wrong. And this is really the formula, right? Is users times tokens per session times sessions per day times the cost of a token, bro. The cost of a token. That's the formula to figure out how much is this thing going to cost me. And if you get any of those things wrong, you could totally destroy the commercials or the budget of your AI solution. And that I thought was very interesting and practical. Again, these is practical advice. If you're an engineer who's building AI stuff, like this may be like no duh. But an executives don't know this. And that's who Gartner's for. So my takeaways from this presentation by Nate Suda: AI projects cost way more than your pilot led you to believe. And so you need to prepare for that. Successful projects can lead to failed budgets. I think oftentimes in traditional IT, it depends on how you're structuring your contracts and that sort of thing. But a lot of times failed projects lead to failed budgets, right? Mm-hmm. But in this case, like doing everything right can destroy your budget.
Yeah.
Because you built a tool that was so useful.
Your users used it so much.
They liked it so much. It's costing you.
Yep. Uh-huh. Yep. And it's one of the reasons it's so good is because you use GPT 4.0 instead of 3.5 Turbo, and that costs more per token.
Right, exactly.
And 3.5 isn't good enough, so you can't downgrade it because it won't work.
You can't downgrade it, right? The user experience is predicated on 4.0. Mm-hmm. So I just think many organizations are not equipped to do this on their own, to make these decisions. They're just not right now. And they should use vendors, is my advice. Like, you should use a vendor rather than build your own AI application. Maybe that means you buy something. If the thing you need doesn't exist, maybe it means you work with a consulting firm. But my feeling was a lot of people are going to get really burned. The pressure to deliver AI solutions is very high. And people are going to get roasted by making the mistakes outlined in this presentation. And that's why I thought this presentation was excellent. And I wanted to share it with all of you. Because I know all of you watching are under pressure to deliver AI solutions too.
Yeah, it's like, man, when U of M released their student-facing chatbot,
what happened?
Nothing. There was just some talk like, why are we so far behind? Coming from on high.
Especially because U of M did it.
Yeah, U of M did it.
Yeah. So for those of you who maybe live in, we have an international audience. So Eric works at Michigan State University, and then the University of Michigan, they're like
a different school.
Yeah, they're rivals, big time. And so, yeah, I'm sure that caused waves, right?
100%.
So, I mean, look at all this stuff. Like, this is why I really feel like, look at all the stuff we talked about you got to have to do these AI projects right. When we're talking about data mesh and data products and the right
data catalogs,
semantics, and right. If you don't have this stuff, and most of you don't, I would work with an outside firm on this. I really would. That's my advice. Your software vendors might have it. Like, we're going to be launching soon some very interesting AI features at Good Data. Lots of other BI vendors are doing the same thing. That would offload a lot of the risk onto us or your vendor when it comes to analytics. I wouldn't try to build it myself unless I were very confident at this point. And I had hired real AI people. I would not go to my data team as an executive, having seen this presentation, and say, you guys deliver this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would hire an AI team. And if I couldn't do that, I would work with outside partners and vendors. Because the risks of destroying your budget are very high. And they go up. The better the tool you build, I feel the risks of blowing your budget go up substantially. So, those are my overall takeaways from the Gartner conference. So what is it? It was all about AI. And wrong button. Gartner's main focus at the Gartner Conference 2024 was AI and AI infrastructure. What pieces do you need to get right in order to get AI right? And it's a lot more complicated than you might think. It involves data mesh and domain-oriented design, data catalogs and knowledge graph, ontologies, semantics, having the right metadata, and putting together a realistic and executable cost model that takes into account that the better AI features you deliver, the more they will cost you due to the way AI is structured and built. That was what the conference was really about. And I thought it was very interesting. I do enjoy, I like Gartner's research. I think it's valuable. I think it's especially valuable for its target audience. So we have some people in the audience here at Super Data Brothers who are executives. I would check this research out. If you're a practitioner and you want to be an executive someday, I would check this research out if you can get it. It's very expensive to get access to this stuff, which is one of the reasons why I'm happy to share it with you here on the show to the degree that I can. I would check this stuff out. If you're a practitioner and your opinion is Gartner doesn't know what they're talking about, they're not for you. Mm-hmm. They're not at that technical level. They're really for decision makers. And so it's always worth familiarizing yourself with what Gartner is saying, because you may hear your CIO saying it as well.
Learn the buzzwords you will be hearing.
Exactly. And you can arm yourself for those conversations when the CIO comes back from a Gartner conference and says, oh, these are the things we're going to do. This is what I learned. You can watch the Super Data Brothers and you can have planned your response to that.
There's no nothing more potentially dangerous than a C-suite who just got back from a conference.
Isn't it ever? I've had that happen many times in my career. Mm-hmm. Oh, the executives went to the conference. Everybody get ready.
Get ready. We're be implementing something.
Mm-hmm. It's all about security.
Mm-hmm.
We had that one time. Suddenly, the whole company was about security.
Because they went to a conference.
The CEO went to a conference and got the crap scared out of him about
stuff that could happen.
About the stuff that could happen, yeah.
And that stuff could happen.
Yeah, could.
And will happen.
All right, so that is the show for today, folks. If this is your first time watching us, we are here every Thursday, most Thursdays, fewer Thursdays over the summer at 12 p.m. Eastern time. Yeah, well, we live in Michigan, so we gotta get those 3 good months. We got to admit
they're nice months, man. The rest of the year, not so nice.
We're here every Thursday. Of course, you can catch us here on LinkedIn Live. You can also catch us at youtube.com/c/Super Data Brothers. That is our show archive. We have many episodes with many great thinkers and covering many awesome topics. Do check it out. When you're there, give us a like, a thumbs up, and click the subscribe button to always get and ring the bell to always get notified when we're going live. And then if you're going to Snowflake Summit or the Databricks AI Data and AI Summit in a couple weeks in California, I will be at both. So do track me down and say hello. I love meeting people who watch the show at conferences. At Gartner, we had 3 or 4 people who came up to me and were like, I love the show. Someone wanted to take a selfie with me.
Really?
Yeah. It was pretty cool. Yeah. It always makes my day. And I love hearing your feedback. What do you like about it? And what do you think we could improve? So if you're going to any of those conferences, track me down and let's talk. I think next week's show, I was thinking we're going to do all about kind of the 5 core components of a semantic layer. What does every semantic layer need to have in order to be a good semantic layer? And I think that's kind of what's kicking around my mind lately. What is a semantic layer and what do they do? And if they don't do these things and your semantic layer doesn't do them, go find another one, basically, is what I was thinking. So, next week is all about semantic layers.
Yeah. Not a, I was doing research for a potential review of, what's that open source BI tool, Apache or like Superset. And I'm like, does it have a semantic layer? And like they had written like a blog post like 2 or 3 years ago. It's like, oh yeah, we have what we call a thin semantic layer. You know, there's a thin, like a last mile semantic layer, and they were describing doing calculations to columns.
Exactly.
That's not that you just made up thin semantic layer. That's not anything. You don't have a semantic layer. You can do calculations. You can do calculations in every BI tool.
Exactly. Well, you
wouldn't have a BI tool anyway. You couldn't have a BI tool without it. So
Microsoft renamed their Power BI data sets to semantic data sets.
Semantic. They call them semantic models.
Give me a break.
Like,
Steve, hey, thank you for coming to the show today. It was good to have you here. And do, if you like what you saw, tune in. We're here most Thursdays covering these types of topics. So, all right. So I think that's it. Any last words for the people, Eric?
No, I think that about covers it. Like and subscribe. Follow us on LinkedIn. Right there. There's Ryan /Ryan Dolly or /Eric Dolly. I don't know why mine has a dash, but it does. LinkedIn decided.
Cool. So we're going to wrap it up there. Thanks again, folks, for joining us today. Of course, until next time, I am Ryan.
I am Eric.
And we are the Super Data Brothers. Have a good summer. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.